Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. We are here with a very special guest, and like Randall Carlisle says, they are all special. Yes, because they are all special. Diane, this is the second time that you've been on the show, yes. So thank you so much for reaching out to me and saying, hey, I've got something I want to talk about. And so you guys know what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about the ugly end of addiction, which I think is an incredible topic to discuss. I also want to say thank you to my lovely wife. She is joining us today as our guest co-host.
Hi, everyone.
Seems like she's starting to be a regular here.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so much.
Until you know, something falls in our lap as far as a job where you can go out and help others in recovery, because that is your passion.
Yes, very much so.
Ladies, again, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Diane, I've got a question for you. When you reached out to me about wanting to be back on the show and the ugly end of addiction, because there's some things that's happened in your life from the first time, and I think you were like our fifth or sixth show.
Fifth show, yeah.
Long time ago, which seems a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it does seem a while ago.
What is your reason for this?
My reason is, I think when I came on the show the first time, so quickly I will, there we go.
Yeah, there we go, we got it.
So when I was in one of the meetings for my husband in support for AA, I learned that there are 3 ways that alcoholics or addicts sometimes pass away from their disease. And one of them is an accident that can occur. The other one is the body shuts down, between all the different things in our body that have to tick perfectly together, and they pass away from their body shutting down. The other one is suicide. Since I have been on your show, I lost a very, very dear best friend to suicide. She was a drug addict. She used alcohol as well, but her drugs of choice, I believe, were heroin and methamphetamines. She distanced herself, and I felt that time when it was coming that she was not the same person anymore. It changed pretty drastically, pretty fast. And her sister I've become even closer to now, and I had to help her in telling her that we love them through stepping back, even though it doesn't feel like you're loving and supporting them. But that she had to try to say, if you would like, help, and you're willing to try. And she would never admit that she had a problem. Yeah. So again, we all know that story, that they have to first admit it.
Right.
In the case of my loved one and my spouse, he has done that, and he's been in recovery now for a while. I'm very proud of where he's at. And that's never easy.
And when you reached out to me, Diane, and talked about, the ugly end of addiction, and where both of us have been on, and listeners, I want you guys to understand this is a very, very big topic, because a lot of our guests who have been on the show have lost friends, have lost loved ones who have battled addiction, people that they used to use with. Yeah. Some of our guests, they've had their friends die in their arms, and we've had guests who have overdosed in front of their kids and their spouses. So this topic, and listeners, please understand, this topic is very, very, very serious. And the people that we've had on the show that have overdosed and have lived to tell their story, no one wants to overdose. That's not the whole purpose of it. They're not using to purposely overdose, or they're not using.
I have to argue with that.
Well, and maybe
because
so.
Some people, they plan to overdose. They want to die.
Well,
they get to that
suicide.
Point.
It's
they get
the suicide
to that
part.
point where
sure,
they want to
and
die.
they'll take more in order to commit suicide.
Yeah. But I'm just talking about in general, from like what a lot of our guests have talked about,
Yeah,
where they're just saying, when I was using, my whole reason for using was not to commit suicide, to overdose, and you know, I've shared on our show before that the last time Jenann drank, I mean, when I dropped her off at detox, I literally saw death in her eyes. And I mean, after I dropped her off, driving home, crying the whole way. Once I got home, every time my phone rang, it scared the living shit out of me because I was waiting for it to be the hospital saying she's gone. It is so hard to take, and with the three things that you talked about, you know, of the ugly ends. I mean, it is an ugly end, right? And it's for everyone, not just that one person. It's all of us.
Yes, and I think that, and this is what we discussed yesterday when we talked, we all are born and then we die, and that's our reality. We hope we live a life that we can leave for others, that maybe they can feel your memory and proud to say they knew you, they loved you. But with this friend of mine,
Oh, it's okay.
I didn't know that would
I'm
get
right
to
there
me.
too.
Yeah, that's all right. This happens on the show quite a bit, to be honest
but
with you.
I think I didn't realize, because there was some anger around it at first.
Yeah.
Her sister was very angry with her sister. And I said to her, she was one of my dearest friends, but for you, this was your sister and your best friend. You two grew up in the same room together. You were just a year and so apart. They were so close. And when this happened to her and she had to back off, I think it's a really hard thing not to be able to say your piece with each other. And she never got to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And we were even told she wrote letters. And this is when you have to think she's in the addict frame of mind. She wrote letters to all the people she felt hurt her. Yeah. And what's sad is she never got to the point where she could come back to all of us and say, I really loved you. But these letters never arrived. Supposedly they were stamped and to be delivered to all of us. And I sat there and thought, what am I going to do when that letter shows up in my mailbox?
Yeah.
Am I going to open it? Am I going to read it? Or am I going to just get rid of it? And I actually made the decision I wouldn't read it. Because
that was a good choice.
It would not be her.
Right. Yeah, because when they're in the depths of their addiction, we know that's not the person.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We know it's
Absolutely.
the addiction that is talking.
Absolutely.
And again, it doesn't matter what type of addiction it is.
That's right.
You know, because we've heard of other people talk about addiction with porn or sex, gambling, and it's that same mindset.
It
You
is.
know, it doesn't matter what anyone says, doing their best to help them and reaching out and saying, we're here. They don't want to hear it.
That's right.
You know, so it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
And she never wanted to hear that. And the last time I saw her, I remember her arms folded and looking away from me, and I was talking to her. It was we knew each other through the dog event things that we used to do, and a dear friend. But she had her arms folded, and she literally looked away while I spoke to her here with anger toward me, and I just thought, wow. You're so not the same person. It just breaks my heart. And I stepped back when she lost one of her dogs. That was because she had no children. So the dogs were her children. As a lot of it, a lot of us feel very much that way. She couldn't. I did come to her and wrote to her privately to tell her I was sorry. I sent some flowers and that, and she actually had a nice thing to say on Messenger back to me. So I felt like I had a little bit of closure. But still, she died in never admitting, and in a life of pure hell. She lived. So,
my dad died of a heroin overdose.
That's right.
In 2009.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel for you. I get the closure thing is the big thing for me because 2 days before he came with my mom to my house, and I had told my mom he's not welcome in my house. And so when I opened the door, I was kind of shocked that he was there. And I said, I'm sorry, you have to wait in the car. And that's the last thing I said to him. Yeah.
That's hard.
So the closure is a big thing. And when I died, it was like I was still angry at him. I still didn't get through it. And I think a lot of that had to do with me starting my addiction.
I bet it did.
And so one of the times I was sober for a long period of time, I wrote him a letter. And I went to his grave and I read it to him, and it was pretty much about forgiving him and knowing that he forgives me, and just that kind of
That's
thing,
good.
and it helped a lot. It
helps
helped
your
a lot.
closure. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
We spoke about that in last night's live show
Oh yeah,
about the forgiveness.
yeah,
You know, because the person who's battling with the addiction, they've burnt so many bridges
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
with friends and family.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us feel like they need to forgive us first before we can move on through our recovery. And it's totally opposite.
Right.
You know, even for me, for myself, I had to forgive myself for me to start forgiving Jenann for what we went through. And once I did that, my journey was a lot softer.
Yeah, exactly. It is true.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I mentioned to you too that where I got my peace, and it's not the kind of peace we all strive for, but my when I realized if my husband continued on the path he was with alcohol, that he would pass away from one of these things. Not as likely suicide with him, just knowing him, but on the other two, definitely.
Yeah.
When I realized that we all have to die someday, he may be choosing his path before really what we'd like to see, because we have a beautiful family, we have wonderful times together, we support each other in my businesses, and I just thought to myself, I have to get to a place of peace where if he chooses this path, I have to say, well, it's coming. And that's not an easy thing to do, to accept. So that's why I think before you accept that, you're in this vicious cycle of, don't stop, you've got to stop. And the same friend of mine that we learned about her sister dying of suicide, she once said to me, because she was here visiting when it happened and he had relapsed, and she didn't understand how I took it so well or calm. And I said, I have to. I have to survive.
What choice do you have?
Yeah. And so, that got me through some of those times a lot better than what I was doing before. And all of those years, and like you said, you have to forgive yourself because it traumatizes the relationship on both sides.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, things are said on both sides that you wish you didn't say.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
We definitely know about that, babe.
I said so many mean things to her, and we were talking before the show about the tough love, and you mentioned that we had another show where someone mentioned tough love. It's still love.
Still love, and I like that.
And it is love. It really is love, and it's hard, and for all of us, our journey is different, just like our guests.
Yes.
The story may be the same, but the journey's still different.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went and played golf with some friends, and one of the guys that they invited, his daughter battled addiction. And I was asking him, like, so how is she now? And he's like, oh man, she's freaking awesome. She's amazing. She's like 4 years clean. And I'm like, so what did it? And he goes, I put my effing foot down and I said, this is how it's going. And I'm just going,
Wow.
well, I've tried that
And
shit
that worked?
over and over.
And that
it
worked
didn't-
for you?
And it didn't for me. So how
Didn't
come
for
it
me.
worked for you?
Yeah.
Now, it's your daughter. Mine's my spouse.
Yeah.
But I so many things was spinning in my head, because, and then I'm hearing other people when I did go to Al-Anon, and I'm hearing other people, and again, I'm the only one in the room that had a spouse. Everyone else had a kid,
It was
a daughter or a son.
child, yeah.
And they're saying what's made a difference for them or what's changed things, and my head was spinning in so many freaking directions because again, we don't know which direction to go.
You don't. You're
we
so
don't
lost.
know. Yeah, we don't know if we take this path, this path, this path,
Yeah.
this path, because they all look the same to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we're all just learning this together. What helped
Right.
me, and I said on the last show, was I learned from a couple of people that said, Diane, you need to understand the disease first. And I realized I didn't.
Yeah.
And that was part of just the lack of knowledge is where I got very angry and frustrated. So when I learned about the disease, and understandably, most people don't understand this disease, the ones on the other side or the ones in it, is sometimes they don't even realize what's tarnishing their relationship. If alcohol's involved, a lot of times your arguments are
worse.
Yeah, a lot worse. Yeah, they just go to a different level.
Yes.
And people, I can remember hearing something, I don't know if it was in a therapy or if it was a AA thing, just saying if you remove the alcohol and say that's the addiction problem, that doesn't mean your relationship will suddenly go back to sunshine
all.
and flowers, and that doesn't anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But that if you remove that piece, you will see a lot of things come back into play that are much better and much healthier. And some of that just won't develop into the ugly arguments that happen when alcohol's involved. So, yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, our arguments, man, they'd go off all over. And if you really think about it, most arguments do.
They
Whatever
do.
you start fighting about, that's not how the argument ends. You're talking about something
Yeah,
totally,
it's
totally different.
Often, and
you
alcohol
know?
just makes it ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it escalates it so much.
So bad. And so I see a lot of people who may part ways in their relationship when they never tried maybe sobriety for one or the other that needed that help. And that could have helped the relationship, and they could have continued on. And because relationships are hard.
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
it's
It doesn't
definitely
matter how great they are. They're
full-time
hard.
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
For sure.
it is. And we always have to remember
Everybody is always
perspective.
telling us that we're the power couple. And it's like they don't see what happens behind
Sure.
closed doors.
Yeah.
And it's not that we'd have a bad relationship at all. It's a good relationship. It's one of the best. It is the best relationship I've ever had. But we don't. Well, it's not perfect.
No.
And we have our arguments still.
Sure.
And I mean,
Yeah.
we
And
just
it's
had one
life.
yesterday. But
Yeah.
you know it's still better than it was
But it
when I was
doesn't-
drinking.
Right. I was going to say it doesn't go into a different level.
Yeah.
Up here.
Oh, yeah.
you
We
know,
never get up
and
there.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I see
We're
my
still
relationship.
we're
kind
still
of
respectful of each other.
Yeah.
And we don't call names. I did say "fuck you" to him yesterday, but that just I don't know why that came from. But I didn't really think "fuck you." You know, I wasn't thinking of saying something
Sometimes we
bad
think
or
that.
rude like that. But usually we are very respectful, and we do argue and we do yell at each other, but we don't get into that high level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Yes,
it's going to be
and-
over. Yeah. Because it in that moment you feel like we're done, we're over. You know, I'm not doing this anymore. And of course you don't want to do this anymore because
Right.
it's not pretty and it's
Oh
not fun.
no, and it's not healthy.
No.
You know, it's not healthy at all. And we've also learned too to, you know, kind of say. I told her afterwards, you know, when I got home later that day, I apologized to her and said, "Look, this is not how I meant it to come across, but apparently
Right.
it came across this way." And I also told her, I says, "Don't ever say F you to me again, because to me that's disrespectful. I'm your freaking spouse.
Right. Yeah. Let's
Do
not do that.
do not say that."
Sure.
You know, it's like I called her the B word quite a few times when she was drinking.
Right.
And that ate me up inside.
Sure, that was part
I
of-
just called my wife a bitch. She's not.
Right.
I know she's not, but it's that anger and the frustration of the
Yes.
alcohol and everything that you walk into on a daily basis. And that was like part of my forgiving myself because of all the mean things that I said. But that's where the addiction takes you, right? It
does.
takes you in so many different directions. You end up becoming someone different
Yourself
as well. And you're not using.
That's right. And you kind of look back at yourself and you go, wow.
Yeah.
And you know, and then those nasty moments, hopefully because of sobriety, it brings you back to thinking maybe differently and handling it differently. I think it's
sure.
part of our frustration on the other side that we think if we can shock you with something we say, that maybe
Yes.
something will get in here
Yeah.
and it'll make you think. And it doesn't work that way. We know that. We know that. So
No, and
I mean, it used
go
to
ahead.
hurt me a lot when I would say things, but it didn't stop me from doing what I
Yeah.
was doing at all.
If anything, it escalated it.
Sure,
Yes.
sure.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and one of your guests had mentioned how, and I really liked him. I can't remember if it's Holloway or Austin.
Jordan. I think it was Jordan.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his podcast. But anyway, he had mentioned about kind of being rebellious. That's cool.
Yeah.
Was a fun thing to be rebellious.
That's
Okay.
exactly who it was
I
Jordan.
was
Yeah.
totally that way.
Yeah, and so is my
Let her-
spouse.
Every
let her finish.
time.
So is
Go
my
ahead.
spouse. Yeah, he is the same way. The rebellion got him attention at home because
Yeah.
it was a big family and it was a neglected family.
Yeah.
They just weren't paying attention to those kiddos being raised as they should be. We know a lot more now, so we are more attentive.
Right.
And I think hopefully as the baby boomers were as parents. But, you know, our parents, some of them weren't always present as they should be. So rebellion got him attention. So anyway, you go on.
Yeah.
With Al and I was really rebellious. I don't remember being that way when I grew up, but not as bad as I was when I was drinking. And with Al.
jeez.
Every time he said, you know, something, how do I say it? I don't even know how to say it. Every time he said something that was like, just stop, or I don't care. I know you're going to
do it anyway.
Whenever I got sober, I don't care. You're going to get drunk again. And so I said, fuck you.
Then I'll do it anyway.
I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it's not the first time you've said it on the show. So
Well, anyway.
we'll just add a bleep. It's a little late. We just bleep.
It's not live.
So every time he said that, I was just so rebellious.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to go drink more.
It's interesting.
And I would stay sober, and I would be like, yes, I'm working hard and doing this. And he was just like totally negative. And so that brought my rebellion.
Yeah, right on.
I'm like, all right.
Just moving
fine.
forward.
He doesn't believe me anyway, so.
Yeah.
I believe there were quite a few times, more than I can count, where I'm like, what are you in fucking junior high and high school again? I mean, come on.
But that's how they act.
Well, yeah.
As we go back to that and see, I
Yeah,
met
exactly.
my husband in junior high. And I really feel like, actually, before alcohol entered the picture, I think we had the best time in our life was, I mean, we met at 14. So 14, 15, and before cars became in the picture. And I told you last podcast that the restaurants served alcohol to their kids who were working there.
Wow.
Like, no big deal. That was the 70s.
Oh, well, yeah,
And that
drugs
was
and
like-
alcohol in restaurant business is big.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine today that would not fly. It wouldn't even. That's, you know, shut down, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
But I look back at that, and that is what started that vicious cycle, for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing of, I mean, that's another umpteen reasons why I love doing this show is how better educated I get, you know, and every week there's something I can really honestly say I learn every week. And however, I will not ever say that I understand addiction fully.
No.
You know, and here just recently I've shared my story, you know,
Yes.
of my 8-year weekend alcohol and cocaine use. And I've had a couple people ask me, so did you consider yourself as an addict? And every single time they've asked me that, the first thing that I'm ready to say was no.
Right.
I didn't, you know, because in my eyes, an addict was someone who did it on a daily basis, like Jenann. She drank on a daily basis, and she didn't drink just to have a few drinks and call it good.
Right.
She drank to get herself frickin' wasted, to get whatever
To pass
feeling
out.
Right.
that
Pass out.
she was wanting to feel. That wasn't me. It was just, man, this is my release on a Friday and Saturday
Yeah.
night, and then I'll
And you
get my
gave
shit together,
yourself that
and,
okay.
and here I go again.
Yeah.
But
But he still got-
however, in all reality,
Yeah.
I was.
I think he still got
Yeah.
blasted.
Like,
You know,
plenty enough.
he
Not a
was
couple
still-
of drinks.
well,
It
He was
more
still
than-
out of control.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Like, I was before I started my addiction.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, there were some times. I mean,
There's levels.
I was
Yeah,
happy
you know.
and
Oh,
enjoying.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, and what you've done, Al, is you've said, no, I can kind of think that the weekend binging stuff is a little bit of a problem. So you've kind of decided to change that. And that's where you probably, you know, we can say things about, a lot of times what I feel I see, and this is just me on this side, is it's kind of how you drink when you drink. Some people say, well, I only get out of control every third time or something like that. And I thought, that's too many times. You know, there's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And some people are just weekend drinkers and they think, well, I'm
That's
not
what
an
we used to be.
alcoholic because I only drink on the weekend. I've known stories and people that have said, no, I was an alcoholic weekend bender. I managed to keep sober through the week, but it was there.
On the weekend,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I was. I used to call myself a weekend alcoholic. You know, and
Yeah.
I didn't, but I didn't think it was a bad thing. It was just a thing. I socialized that way, and but you know, having that kind of life leads to addiction
It
because
definitely can.
it doesn't stop. You like you said, you have levels, and
There's
it just
levels.
keeps going.
Yeah, and I told you too. I think we talked about people in retirement. A lot of times they will be maybe a weekend drinker because they work all week, and then once they have no job to kind of call to,
Oh,
They
yeah.
turn into
they turn
alcoholics,
it
for sure.
yes, because then all of a sudden it's like, well, I have nothing to go to tomorrow, so. And that's when it changes, because I've met a couple in the AA meetings with my husband that that was the case for them, and they realized, I think I have a problem. And see, look how much later in life that was.
Yeah.
For them.
Well, and see, I think the people that his mom and dad used to go down to Yuma every year.
Uh-huh.
And I think the people that they know down there are all alcoholics, or most of them. Don't you think?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I
so.
think they enjoy having a cocktail here and there, and they're all retired. You know, and
I just think
Again,
they are.
Is it that,
don't
can
know.
you stop? Like the big
Well,
thing
we-
is, can you have 2 drinks and go to bed, or do you have to continue
We
the
don't.
high?
We haven't communicated with them a lot, but
yeah, because we only
it just
we
only met
when
him
they
one
went down.
time. But I just had that
Yeah.
vibe, you know, like because I'm an alcoholic, I can
Sure.
usually detect one.
Yeah.
And I just had that vibe with at least
Sure.
3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just kind of look at it differently. It's like it's not my place because
Sure.
I'm judging
Well, of
them
course not.
basically. I'm
Of course
judging
not.
them, you know, and
Yeah.
and I don't know, and I mean I know after my dad passed and we had that little celebration.
Yeah.
I mean they were throwing the alcohol at me left and right.
Right.
I'm like, and a lot of the people that are there are from Canada, and there was some good.
Yeah.
Canadian stuff, man.
Yeah.
They gave me some really good stuff.
Right.
But I'm like, man, you guys are going to have me freaking wasted. You
Yeah.
got to back off here a little bit because
Yeah.
that's not what
Calm
my
down.
plan is, you know. I mean, yeah, I just lost my dad, but
I'm not that
I'm
person
not,
anymore.
I'm not
I'm not.
looking at wanting to get
Sure.
hammered.
Exactly.
You know, or even really get a buzz going. I'm good with just having a few shots.
And you know what? That's a
I'm
good
good.
point too about the death of your father. And I know you said you had some issues
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and I heard that a little bit. But for some people, they have to be very careful when they lose someone incredibly special in their life. Sometimes that's when addiction starts.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a very
Well,
dear friend.
I think that's what happened with me because
Yeah.
that's when my addiction started. Is in
it took off on that
2009.
next level.
Yep.
Woo!
Yeah.
But I have a very dear friend who, good LDS, and she never ever took a drink. And her husband died very young in his 40s of colon cancer. And she tried alcohol, and it became a coping mechanism for her sorrow. And this level actually for her actually reached pretty quickly. And that usually you see alcohol, it takes a longer time. That's why
Oh, yeah.
it's sneaky and it's so quiet the way it sneaks in on people
Yeah,
because it doesn't usually happen that fast.
Yeah.
Harder drugs do. They go quicker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lady that in one of the AA meetings I used to go to. She was like 65 years old or something like that, and she said she started when she was 55,
Wow.
and she right off the bat became an
Boom.
alcoholic.
Interesting. Yeah. And
So
it just depends.
Yeah.
You know, the individual. I think you
Yep.
just have to always kind of keep that in check and realize, you know, my husband says you don't have an addict personality in any way.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah,
said
but
that to
yeah,
her.
definitely. You can kind of tell. And like you said, there's other addictions as well.
Yeah. Well, and there's some people like our friend Laban, who's been on the show a couple times. You know, Laban was addicted to everything. He's like, I was addicted
Yeah,
to
just-
drugs, alcohol, gambling,
Yeah.
flandering, as he calls it.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Just
goes, you
everything.
name it. I was addicted to it because I got this rush,
Whatever
this
could get him
endorphin
high.
rush.
It's an
Yep.
endorphin rush.
You know, and he's like, man, I wanted to do it. And you even have people who do have that addiction of that endorphin rush who do extreme sports.
True.
You
It's
know,
true.
I mean, that's almost like an addiction where
It
that's all
absolutely
they
is.
want to flip
Feel,
and
they
do.
wanna
yeah,
feel
if
that
it's
all
all
the
they
time.
want to do and they
Yeah.
do it all the time, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly a safe one either. You know,
Oh, no.
doing
Yeah.
extreme sports, you can kill
Oh,
yourself.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, easy. Well, you can kill yourself a lot quicker, I guess. But yeah, it's same with anything else.
Just
yeah.
risking
yeah.
your life like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and two, just to bring about the other one about death from the ugly end of addiction and accidents. I mean, how many of that? I mean, I'm sure you know people.
Drinking and driving
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
sorts of,
And,
yeah.
and I told Al about, I don't know her as well now, so this was a young girl that I also taught dance to. Her family moved to St.GEORGE when she was in high school, and she was one of my daughter's very best friends. I had learned on the news, and this, I want to say I don't know if it's been 8 to 10 years since, but I heard her name on the news that this person had died. They were drinking and driving, and they went to like the campsites around the area, and they got out and they were partying. They were talking to people in the different campsites, and some of the people who witnessed speaking to her said she was really bad to be getting back in the car. I don't really know the circumstances surrounding it, but then she drove off this cliff and died.
jeez.
She had a little girl. She was 30 years old. So she was, again, one of my daughter's very best friends. Lost touch somewhat, but we dearly loved their family
Yeah, of course.
as we were all, together and bringing up our children. And I heard that, and I thought, I know nothing about her life past some of her high school years, So I don't really know what happened there, but that tells me when she drinks, there was some out of control.
Yeah.
To be behind that wheel like that. And she left a little girl behind that was like 18 months old. So the story, so that was one of my other examples. My best friend from suicide and then the body shutting down was my brother-in-law, who was 49. I remember he messaged me on Facebook, and I dearly wish I had actually made a phone call to him. You know how we all do the messaging thing. And he had messaged me that, he said, I'm in the hospital. My kidneys are starting to shut down. They're hoping I can get out of here. His esophageal area here was paper thin from all the hard liquor, and it was about ready to burst. He had a GI bleed, and his biggest thing, every time he went in the hospital, and he went in several times, and he was so young still, he was always having trouble with the pancreas. And so finally they released him, and in 3 days, it was basically, you drink again, you'll die. And he drank again and he died. So that was my other example, those three. So I have them, and it's a tough reality. If we, and I remember my husband one time standing up in AA and saying, sometimes we don't always win the battle. Sometimes we lose the battle.
Yeah.
And I think when you stand behind others and you hope that they want to go in that right direction, we that love them will be there for them, and we will stand behind and say, I support you in this. And what I can do. So I firmly believe that that's a help. AA is a great help for a lot of people. And some of it's more private for others. So it just depends.
Yeah, some have their different ways.
Yeah.
Let's take this time right now, and we'll stop for a quick commercial break.
Perfect.
And then we come in, and I'd like to go more into that, because Diane, yesterday when we were at the coffee shop talking, we were talking about different avenues for people, because it is all different. Their journey is different, even though the stories may be the same, and getting people who are on the other side to understand a little bit more. The anger that we throw out towards our loved ones, which is understandable. I'm not saying it's not, because man, I threw a ton of it out myself.
It's really frustrating.
Loads and loads of it. However, we need to step back a little bit and say, let's pull the reins back a little bit and do our best to understand addiction a little bit more to help our loved ones.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. We're here with our special guest Diane and our beautiful co-host. Both ladies are beautiful. I guess I better throw that in. My wife, Jenann. So ladies, again, thank you for being here. And thank you for coming back the second time.
Yes.
Diane, when you reached out to me, I was so excited, and especially when you talked about, the topic of the ugly end of addiction, which I thought, man, that is flippin' perfect. So
Yeah.
First part of the show was awesome. We spoke about basically the three ways of how addiction ends, right?
Correct.
And we have known people ourselves, like Jenann mentioned earlier in the show, her father lost his battle with addiction from, and I would say probably an accidental heroin overdose.
Right.
That's how I would like to say
I like to say that, yeah.
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 And we've had other guests on our show
what-
who have talked about the same thing, and we've also had friends that who drank and ended up losing their lives because the alcohol got to them so much and just messed with their liver way too
often.
much. Yeah. And it's just so sad for everyone around them, friends and family, because you're basically are watching a slow suicide.
Yes.
In all honesty,
It's a slow,
Yeah,
horrifying death to watch someone. And now here's something you and I spoke about yesterday when we met for coffee. I had described it because I feel like alcohol is definitely a disease, and when I didn't know a lot about it back then, I thought, oh, come on, but it is in my mind, because I told you that I liken it to, let's say cancer. And someone may choose not to treat their cancer. They may say, and we say, well, that's your choice. Maybe they don't want to go through chemo and radiation.
I've had family members that have made
said
that
no.
choice. Mm-hmm.
And my mother went through radiation and chemo, and it was hideous, and it itself almost killed her. Mm-hmm. So if someone says, well, no, I just want to drink myself to death, or I guess they're making that choice. And it's hard for those of us that love them. We hope they make the choice to try to save their lives. Yeah. And so if they do that, then we want to say they're in recovery, and they're making those attempts to try to get well, and we're always, the saying is we're always in recovery. We're not fully recovered because it's always there.
It's always there.
Just like cancer might be in remission, but it could come back.
Yep.
Type thing. So yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's so. In one of my rehabs, what I learned was, in the medical association, in order for them to say it was a disease, you have to have an organ, symptoms, and something else I don't remember.
Organ.
But so the organ's the brain in this disease, and then the symptoms are the things you do when you're drinking. Like the bad things you do, like criminal things or whatever this person does.
Right.
Lying and cheating and stealing and
Exactly.
all that stuff. So then there's the bottom one, and I don't remember what it is, but that's what the medical association had to do before they would say it was a disease.
Okay.
But now they say it's a disease.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we have all those, whoever talked to him showed him all those things.
Exactly.
And so, it's just like cancer or heart disease or any kind of disease there is out there. It's
absolutely.
the same thing.
And I mean, we even spoke about it yesterday, and it's looked at in so many different ways, and we all have our own opinions,
Sure.
on how things, and especially even those who have gone through the addiction. I know some people who have battled the addiction who says, no, I didn't look at it as a disease. Other people have said, oh, absolutely, it's a disease. It's been rampant throughout my family for years and years and years, and I'm just another one of the victims. The disease, just like heart disease, it runs through families, right?
And cancer runs in mine.
Cancer. Yeah. So, and again, it's a toss up, and it's so hard. I mean, I've been doing my best to wrap my brain around it, going, okay, how is it that I see it, and I'm still not able to wrap my fingers around it and going, is it a disease? Is it not? And it's almost like choice. I would stick up for Jenann a lot when people would thrash out, because I'd make certain posts on Facebook, and people was like, it's her choice. And, they're going off, and I'm like, no, it's not her choice. Did you choose to get cancer? Do you choose to have diabetes? No, you didn't choose it.
Or choose to be depressed.
Or have the anxiety. It just happens. And now with hearing a lot of our guests and their stories, I'm going, okay, well, yeah, I still feel strongly that it's not a choice, but then later down the road, I think it is a choice because we do have that choice of, getting ourselves out of it before it gets too deep. And because usually when we're in it that deep, it's so hard to get out of. It's like all the years that I've hunted, and been up in the mountains and storms come in and the roads get all nasty and muddy, and thank goodness you have a 4-wheel drive. Sometimes people don't. And, a good thing is to help keep you on the road, really, unless they're really deep, is to put your tires in the ruts, right? Because it's kind of keeping you where you need to go so you don't go off the edge. And some roads I've been on, and I know if I got out of those ruts, I had a good chance of freaking rolling down a hill that's 200 yards down, you know? But yet when you finally get to an area where it's a little safer and you try getting out of that rut, it's freaking difficult. And I don't know, many times back in the days when you had to get out and lock your hubs in. Now you just press a button or switch a switch. But it was still difficult. And I try to use analogies like that, thinking how hard it is for some people to get out of that.
Sure.
And yesterday, Diane, you shared a picture with me that your husband drew. And I love the wording that he put on it. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Well, and this came out of watching the Disney's Pixar Inside Out.
Okay.
And in that movie, it shows emotions: joy, sorrow, anger, anxiety. Which a lot of that factors into addiction. We can have, and don't we all want joy?
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate, but we feel all of these feelings from time to time. But what he came up with at the end of this movie, because in this movie they talk about the train of thought, and he said, they need a sequel to this that says that the train of thought is where you can get off that train of thought, and it heads you over here to addiction. So he drew this picture. I don't know if we...
Yeah, is there a way we can zoom in on that picture, guys, at all, or... There you go.
So
you want to hold it up even a little bit, Diane?
So his name is Al, and no pun to you, but for him
no
is...
No pun taken.
Al stands for alcohol, and he's like this little Western guy, because we both are very fond of the old Westerns. And at the little caption, he said, "Go ahead, let your guard down," because that addiction's always looming right there. And he says that takes, the train of thought, and it can take you right there. And Ryan Evans, who was here, was a friend of my
We love
my
Ryan.
friends.
He's flipping awesome. He actually just introduced me to a gentleman who wants to come on the show last
good.
night.
See how it all, it goes in different directions.
It
does. But he said one thing he learned is when that moment happens and you turn on that channel and there it is going, go, 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 or, tapping you on the shoulder. He says, I just changed the channel. And I loved that. I thought that is such a good way to think of it. And I love all the different analogies that help us understand this disease because it is complicated. And I think last show we talked about how in the full addiction, the brain shrinks. And as it's healing, the brain matter gets better and better, and your brain comes back to more normal function. But when you're in the disease of addiction or alcoholism, there's receptors, and this is what my husband learned in rehab. They're open, and when you stop the drug suddenly, they're screaming. All those receptors, you have so many, but they're more now with addiction, and they're screaming for that drug and screaming, and that's what that withdrawal is, and you just feel like you've got to go and fix that. And so that's where rehab and trying to go into recovery is so hard, because you've still got those open receptors screaming at you. But, one day at a time, as the saying goes.
I can say that as time goes, you get, what did I used to call them? Oh my gosh. You get new
neurons?
Yeah, healthy.
They're pathways.
Pathways, okay.
But I can't remember what they call them exactly. But you get new pathways in your brain, and that's what helps it to be easier to stay sober.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all a matter of time.
It is.
Patience and time. And which is a hard thing, especially for me. I don't have any patience.
No,
about
she doesn't.
anything.
No, not at all.
No, I have patience for my grandkids, but that's it.
Well, and you've done huge leaps and bounds to be sober, so I
Thank you.
really
Thank you.
feel happy for you.
Thank you.
One thing I remember explaining to somebody one time, and I believe this was even on social media, you know, someone probably like you and I, Diane, there could be times when we've had a hard day at work or just a hard day period. And
Just a bad day.
You think, man, I'm going to go home and have a cocktail when I get home. You know, and you're looking forward to that cocktail. And then by the time you get home and you get yourself settled in and you get ready to make that cocktail, you're like, no, I'm really not in the mood. You know, I'll just have water or pop or juice or whatever. When it has to do with someone who's battling the addiction, I know when I didn't think or use my common sense, my dad used to use his finger and just thump it on the top of my head really hard, which used to just irritate the shit out of me. And it's like, think, use your brain, you know? And I'm like, that's what it is for the person who's battling the addiction.
It is.
We're able to shut it off.
Right.
We're able to say, you know what? No, yeah. And it's like the devil and the angel, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to listen to the white one over here instead of the red one. For them, it's constant. It's constant. And yes, through AA and other rehabs and that, they give you tools to help you guide yourself get through those. And a lot of times it's picking up a phone call, you know, picking up the phone, calling someone or different other tools, or picking up the big book and reading or whatever. However, it's still that constant thump. It takes a certain amount of time before it starts lessening up a little bit, and our listeners have heard me. Oh, you want to go ahead?
I just remembered they're neural pathways.
Neural pathways.
Okay.
They have to look.
Right.
Yeah,
Neural
they
pathways.
have to grow
Neural
pathways.
New pathways.
And the way they do
That's
that
fascinating.
is by getting themselves into the big book, AA, things like that make their recovery capital high. And so, sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm glad that you.
I just remembered it, and I was like, wait. I have to tell you.
No.
That's just the struggle that we on the other side don't understand.
Right.
You know, and I think I was even telling you this when we met, Diane, that you know, after I lost my job, and that I'm like, I'm done with this. And I mean, I was done. It's like, I just lost my frickin' life that I gave 24 years to.
It's a big deal.
Because of a drug.
Because of a drug that was helping me escape what the hell was going on in the job, basically. You know, and I remember how I was feeling afterwards. And it still took a little bit of time to where when I started coming out of the depression is when that frickin' devil started popping up again, going, okay, well, you're starting to feel better. You know, pick up that phone. You know, you're starting to feel a little better because let's get back, because you did this for every frickin' weekend for 8 years.
Come on.
Where
are
you at? You know, I mean, get back on. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it took the time, and I'm grateful, so grateful that whatever was inside me was able to not get back on that horse again. Now,
so really
did I use down the road? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
When she was going through the depths of her addiction, and there were times it's like, oh my freaking
That's the
hell.
only way I can escape.
You know, oh my, what am I going to do? What am I,
Right.
you know, and I'm going nuts, and it's like, okay, I need to freaking chill out, and I need to not, and that was my numbing.
Right.
You know, and
Both numbing on both sides.
however, I'm grateful
You
again
know?
that I did not fall back into that every
Very.
single weekend cycle, because
It's
I could have
true.
fell into it so
Absolutely.
easy. And that part of me has really gotten to understand now that I'm bringing in my past. I wasn't seeing it before. Jenann brought it up during the break. I'm on her about her addiction when she was throwing at me, well, what about your weekend stuff?
And he was like,
That was a
what?
problem.
It's like, hey, that's not a problem.
So, so I'm doing the same thing she's doing. I'm throwing the denial out there. I'm in denial going, oh, hell no.
Yeah, not me.
and I've done it for years, you know, and
Interesting.
so
I don't know how much I knew about him doing it while I was in my addiction because there's not a lot of
Clarity? at
yeah
this point?
a lot of focus when that's involved.
Yeah.
But I always said, you know, whenever he said that to me, I would say, "What about?" For years, no, I didn't say what about your addiction. I would say, for years you lied to me about your cocaine use. How is that any better than what I'm doing right now?
Sure.
Is what I used to say, but it's, you know, it was all that alcoholic bullshit.
Yeah.
Is what I can say.
It is.
It's
Well,
all
it's-
you having your rationalizations.
Yes. Well, and my husband, you might relate to this, described it as every day or every waking thought is that, getting that drink.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
Oh.
right there.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
when you're in it and you're in the thick of it. Because I hear him say, you know, it's so nice not to be in that cycle right now.
Oh, yeah.
And here's
I say
another
that all the time,
yeah,
too.
it's nice. Here's a saying, because we both love the old Westerns. And it was about, you know, someone that was an alcoholic in the show. And when he became sober, and I think it was another person said to him, well, it sounds like it's kind of like an itch that you just can't scratch.
Yep.
And I
That-
love that.
is that
It's so true.
was that the reel with
I don't know. Maybe.
reel with because there was there was
remember.
one where I think Dean Martin was an alcoholic and he was a
Oh,
sheriff.
it
or,
could have been.
or one of those. Yeah, because I love the old westerns
I do,
as
yeah.
well. But yeah,
We grew up that way.
yeah, yeah.
He
right.
likes the
That's a
new
good
ones
one.
too.
I like
Yeah.
the new ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to get more back into the
Yeah.
back into the westerns
I
again.
love
Get rid
them,
of all
yeah.
these damn cop shows and doctor shows. Enough's enough, man. Come on.
Yeah, I'll
Anyways.
stick to my Disney shows. I'm such a softie, I can't handle a lot of what they show now. So I just like things that give me lessons. This is
Yeah.
why I enjoy hearing people's success stories. And I tell you, the Matthew Perry story is, you just got to listen to it.
It would be amazing to have.
I
him.
want
Wouldn't it
to
be
have
fun?
him on the show.
Yes, we both can co-host.
Yeah, yeah. Because Diane's
love
like,
it.
if you ever get him, I'm
here.
Yeah, I'm here.
But his
Yeah,
story,
because I'm a big fan of his too.
Oh,
and when I heard
yes.
his story,
He's
his book
amazing.
came out, I was like, Al,
Yeah.
we got to do something to get
Yes.
him on the show.
yes, I hope maybe you
'Cause-
could, because that would be just a
It would be.
wonderful.
Hey,
Yeah.
you never know.
And you
You
don't know
never
until you
know.
try.
Yeah.
So, and if you tried and you didn't get the success you were looking for, you tried.
Yeah.
You know? But with him, and I told Al this
I'll do
yesterday.
everything I can to help you too.
Yeah, me too.
I bet you will.
Yes. When he said he never really spoke too much about a higher belief per se in this program, but he just said if you ever wonder, you stand at the ocean and feel, can you stop that? That's when you realize
wave, yeah,
it's
can
way
you?
bigger than you.
Yeah.
That wave, you're not stopping that wave. He was very simple with it. He didn't bring up a lot of it up. I enjoyed the whole show, so it's worth a watch if you get a chance to watch
I
it.
want to
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
it, yeah.
I definitely. And I again, I believe I have to go back through our messages, but I believe you sent me the link.
I
on
think
it.
so. So have
And
Jenann watch it too.
I'm going to have to get in and go through and watch it. And we get so many people sending us things. It's,
bet you do.
sometimes I'm losing track. And,
Little
and
overload.
It does. And I mean, we've had so many amazing guests who have written incredible books. And with one of our up and coming live shows, this gentleman that's going to be on wrote a book called Alpha Male, and it's going to fit perfect with what our topic is. And my buddy's like, hey, you need to get that book and see if you can read some of it. I'm like, I think I still have like 10 of them that I'm still trying
It's
to
like
get
I need to get to this one. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
that
Oh,
also
we have
good.
so many books at home.
Yeah.
Has to be
Recovery
good.
books. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of, and then they're great books. They're all of them
Absolutely.
are really good books. And
Well, they're the heroes in this.
Oh, absolutely.
All of you that go through this and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
You get life again. I didn't get closure with that friend of mine. She died feeling angry at all of us that we had abandoned her. And it breaks my heart, but what could we have really done more? All she had to do is say, I want to try, and we would have been there. It was easier with a friend. When it's a spouse or a child, I would think it'd be much harder. With a friend, I could say, well, I haven't seen you in years, and so there you are over there somewhere, for a little bit.
Right.
She was homeless for a short time, and,
that's where, again, our boundaries come in, Diane, with all the AA meetings and stuff that I went to with Jenann, and even a lot of the little family things that they would have when she'd be in recovery, and
Yeah.
they talked about boundaries, and all I heard was boundaries for them and triggers for them, not
triggers for them.
realizing we have the same thing. There were so many times I reacted on triggers
Oh,
Oh,
the same
triggers
thing.
on me too.
on that
Just-
I was having, not realizing they were
Boom.
triggers.
Yeah.
And the boundaries, it's like the last time, one of the last times, I finally realized after umpteen years, and I told Jenann this many times, that when you're sober and you reach out and you're wanting help, I'm here with open
Yeah.
arms. I'll do whatever I can to help you.
Absolutely.
I'll take you to detox. I'll take you
Yeah.
to rehabs. I'll be there to support you. I don't know how many AA meetings I went with her, to be that support and letting her know I love her and I still care
know that.
about her.
Yeah.
However, if you're going to come around and you're going to be drunk and be belligerent and you're going to be pissy and pissed off at me because of how you think your life sucks,
Right.
don't come around, because
Right.
I cannot have that in my life
It brings
anymore.
you down. It's
We get
a
addicted
weight.
to their addiction.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and again, we fall. We ending up becoming someone that we don't even know who we
Sure,
are.
absolutely.
And
And we don't like that person.
and we don't.
That we have
Yeah.
become, and we have to heal too.
Yes.
So we're
Oh,
all
for
in the
sure.
process together. I think,
sure.
don't
Yeah.
you?
Now
Yeah.
that is one thing I do believe true-heartedly when they say that addiction is a family
Yes.
disease. That I will say
It sure is.
absolutely, because it affects everyone around you, and unfortunately the person that's battling the addiction, they think the only ones they're harming is themselves.
But that's
and
part of
then-
that selfishness.
For a long
is.
time anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we have a good friend, and she was on the show, and she was talking about that. She went to her granddaughter's birthday party, and she's like, I'm just going to have a few
Before
drinks, and
the granddaughter's birthday
before
party,
I'm going to
she
have
was
a
on
few.
that treadmill,
Okay.
and she thought she'd do some Bloody Marys while she was doing it.
Isn't that funny?
And I think behind the reason behind all that was that her ex was going to be there,
Oh.
and so she thought, I'll have a better attitude with a couple drinks, and
Then she saw a video
of how she
of
looked
how she
and
was
what
acting,
she did. Yeah,
and she's like, I'm at
Interesting.
my granddaughter's birthday party and I'm acting
like
this.
that.
And she said that's what opened her eyes.
good.
And I mean, we don't realize really how we are when we're under the influence. We think we're fooling everyone. And I did it for years with her, but I bet if I went back and looked at who I was back then,
might not have liked
I
you.
would be like,
Yeah.
oh my hell. This is
Mm-hmm.
actually how I was acting, because I thought I was being funny, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really much of an angry type person. Every once in a while I would be. However, I thought I was joyful. Everybody loves out because
Yeah.
I'm the jokester and
I'm the-
having
I'm the-
fun and we're
I'm the
partying.
funny one.
yeah. He
When-
was
well,
always
probably not.
but I didn't
you know?
ever really notice that he was. I just always thought that he had come home from work. So what he did was he'd come home from work on Friday early. He worked late all the other days,
All the other
and
nights.
then get off early just to come home and drink. And that's what I thought he was doing, just drinking.
Oh.
And so by the time I got home, he was kind of pretty sloshed already.
Yeah, I think I already had almost a 12-pack in there.
And plus the cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always thought he didn't eat dinner. So I thought, oh, he's drunk because he didn't eat dinner.
Uh-huh.
But I never thought you went way overboard when we were with our friends, except for that one time
When
you fell in the tub.
Yeah.
That's a
That
good
was
one.
kind of my awakening moment. That's when I started looking in the mirror going, God,
Well,
please help me, because I'm
that
headed
was
down
so
the
bad.
wrong
I had-
road.
Well, and there's no way to
had a-
drink like that when you're when you're younger. If you continue that path and you're older, it just kills you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
our bodies can't handle that.
sure,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had friends.
I'm
we
grateful
enjoyed.
that my body's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some issues, but it's nothing like most of the people I've seen,
Yeah.
But so to go back to that night, I had a best friend that came in with me when I was screaming, and unfortunately, he was naked, and she had to see that, and that really upsets
all my
me.
glory.
I'm like,
Right?
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe you put me in this.
I don't know if I was
situation."
completely naked. I was going to the bathroom.
No, you were.
And
And you weren't in your right
I-
mind.
I went right over and,
Oh,
and
kinda
and
like
that could have killed me. I could have broke
Sure.
my neck.
Absolutely.
I could have hit my head on the spigot. I mean,
Absolutely.
so many different things could have happened.
Oh, there's just
That night,
Well, then
you
there's
know?
also that glory, that feeling, the power of the, you can do anything.
Oh, yeah.
I knew somebody that wanted
Invincible.
to jump off of a the deck because, you know, he could do it, you know, and it's like, wow, this was way back. But, you know.
I remember seeing
yeah.
that growing up, working construction in
Yeah.
Phoenix. A guy
Yeah.
that we worked with, man, he would pound the beers. He was actually from Nebraska, but we were doing construction in Arizona. And one of our good buddies had a swimming pool, and we had this big party. And, yeah, he was big on smashing the beer cans on his forehead.
Oh, jeez.
And he had blood running down him, which didn't bother him at all. And then he got
Yeah.
this harebrained idea about climbing up on the roof, and he'd be able to jump off the
Yeah,
roof into
see?
the pool.
They get this.
And what gets me is how many of us were going, do it!
Yeah, and you're egging
Because
them on.
we're
Yeah.
all drinking too.
Kill
you know?
yourself.
Yeah.
Kill
Yeah,
yourself.
let's do it!
Well, again, accident. You know,
Right? The accident
The
comes
accident,
right back. Yeah.
because you're making poor choices. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
accident
Exactly.
For sure.
is going to be a very likely possibility.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely,
yeah. But I like that you said family disease because it really, really does affect everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And as I helped this, and then going to my friend whose sister died, who was also my friend, that was rough to try to get her through it. She thanked me though. She said, "Diane, thank you for sharing that with me because I was falling for all the things she was saying. Because a big thing that drug addicts do, I guess, is go to the hospital in the emergency room and they say, I have gut pain. And the first thing they do, I guess, is give them morphine. And that, you know, was what they wanted.
Right.
And she was falling into, oh, I'm sick, they don't know what's wrong with me. And she thought it was all a legit thing until I told her a few things I found out about what she was doing. And she said she thanked me for that and that she was grateful. And I told her, I hope you are not upset that you never got to have that time where she said, I need help. And she passed away without that happening. And she said, no, I know I did the right thing in stepping back with the tough love. It's just hard. So,
But it's
Yeah.
very necessary. Very
Yeah.
important and necessary.
and you
because-
can say that,
Right.
you know, and that
And
means a lot
'cause
to
if
me.
I didn't,
to hear
if
you
I
say
didn't,
that.
I wouldn't have gotten sober if Al wasn't being the way he was.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that. That last time when I was in detox, I would call him like every, 2 hours?
This seemed like sooner to me, but it could have been every 2 hours.
I don't know, but I called him all the time. And I always wanted him to say, okay, just one more time. I'll let you back one more time. But he didn't do it. He said,
You got to
I
be
am
comfortable.
done.
Yeah.
I'm done
You
with
felt
you,
him
Jenann.
moving on.
I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And after I got out of detox, my daughter took me in. But it was like for overnight one night. She said it was all cool and everything, but then I was on APMP. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Adult Probation and Pro.
Okay.
And they're really strict. And they come to visit you where you're living.
Oh, hell,
And-
they even search your frickin' house.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Not like search like a
Yeah,
police
they don't
search
go
would be,
through,
but they still
they
walk
open your
around and-
freezer, open your fridge,
Interesting.
go in all the rooms and
Yep.
all the closets and all that stuff. But she didn't want that, or not she didn't, her husband, because my daughter had been on APMP she has mental health issues, and so she's done some things like
We'll leave that alone.
leave-
yeah.
Yeah.
And so she has been on it, and so he's like, okay,
Not doing
we
it.
already did this once. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it with my mother-in-law. You know, plus they have dogs, and they didn't take very good of that. Very good of that. Very good care of their house, and so they're like, she's like, I need you to find someplace else to go because this isn't gonna work. And so I was really, really desperate because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sober now, and I don't want to be
Go back
homeless.
there. Yeah.
Because I will
Yeah.
go back to it.
Yeah.
And so I called Al, and I was just as serious as I could be, and tried to be just not like a beggar or anything like that. Tried to say the things that would make him give me another chance, and he did. But it was like when he came to pick me up, it was like we are just friends. Or I don't even know if he said we were friends, but this is just platonic. There's nothing going to go on with us. I will help you out until you can find a place to go.
And you
That's
felt
pretty
he meant
much
it. Yeah.
And that got me sober. I mean, it wasn't the only thing that got me sober, but
Yeah, you got yourself sober.
him using those
God helped you.
boundaries, that I was like, shit, if I don't get my stuff together, he's gonna get rid of me.
I remember hearing you say that you felt him distancing himself. And
Yes.
that
Yeah.
it felt scary, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, it is a frightening thing.
He was like, it was like I was stopped here and he was over here and he just kept moving forward. And I was like, what about me? What about me? But that's what he had to do.
And everyone's wake-up call is different, don't you think? Because I feel like some have their bottoming out thing, they call it, or whatever. For some, it's just different. Some it takes a lot more.
Sometimes their rock bottom isn't their rock bottom.
Yeah, I have had multiple rock bottoms. Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because so it's all different.
Yeah.
But he had to have those boundaries in order for him to be okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had those boundaries made me go, okay, this is for good. I don't want to touch that stuff ever again. I don't want to smell that stuff ever again.
Right.
You know, I want to be there for my husband like he is for me.
Absolutely. And I think now that you want to work in the field and help others, this is the AA way, where they feel like when we give back to that community, we always see those that are in that desperate stage. And by those that have been there, like you have, my husband, you can give back and help others. That keeps you sober. That's what I've heard them say.
Oh, for sure.
And that it's huge.
That is the goal,
Yeah. So I hope you can get the position you're
Me
looking
too.
for, because that's important. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when we were here with Destiny Garcia from Clean Slate, Utah, last night on the live show. She goes, actually, literally, when you get into the field and you start working, it does more for you than it's doing more for the ones that
Absolutely.
you're
It does.
helping.
That's
you
right.
know? So
It's
and I'm seeing that with all the people that I've been meeting, and I've put myself in this addiction realm. I see that over and over and over. That is their healing,
Right.
And it's doing so much for their healing.
And you
it's
continue
incredible.
to heal, because it's never gone. You're just still in process of healing all your life, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
pretty much.
It
Oh,
really
yeah.
is. You're never done.
You're
It's
on this path forever.
forever, and that's
Yeah.
okay, because sometimes that path actually will make you live longer.
Yeah.
And healthier in a lot
Where
of ways.
you don't fall in one of those three categories.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
There we go. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, but in AA, they still do. They always say, like the newcomer, you're the most important person in
here.
this room.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I don't know how to explain it, but they bring up the fact that we want to serve them and help them. That's the best way I can say it. But
Yeah.
and that's why they're so important to us.
Exactly.
Because we stay sober, helping them stay sober.
And I saw one recently in the meeting where you got your chip. Was it 2-year chip?
Yeah.
And some of the new ones. What an important thing to show them that people can do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that
for
is
sure.
everything.
And how many people that got up and got their 10-year chip?
Yes.
And that one gentleman, was it 30 years or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
He got up and he goes, I remember going to one of my first AA meetings and someone got their 30-year chip, and I'm like,
You gotta be
bull
kidding.
effing shit.
Yeah.
There's no way
Yeah.
you could go. Now here he is getting his 30.
Yep.
You know,
That was
so
Clint, I think.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
goes
Was
to
that
show
Clint?
it's possible.
I know. Clint.
I would
Good
really
guy.
like to get him on your show.
Yeah.
that
I'm
would
going to have to ask him
He'd
next
be a
time I see him.
great.
Yeah.
He would
big
be.
one. Yeah,
It would be really good.
We call him Santa Claus. He's
Yeah.
It looks like
That's
Santa
what I
Claus.
always called him,
He's
too.
perfect here. Anyway,
How do you know him? From that meeting? Or?
Well, he used to go to the Midvale Lunch Bunch one with my husband, so he knows
okay.
him. Yeah, good guy.
I love him, yeah.
Anyway.
Him and John.
Yeah.
Yeah, John's
Do you
a
know
good guy,
John in the
too.
back?
If I know John.
He got up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He got
John
up and
got
got
up.
a chip.
Just to hear people, this is inspiring to me. So,
Yeah.
you know, and to connect with you too. I've enjoyed the times we've been able to talk and support each
Yeah,
other. So
me
it goes
too.
on. It goes on and on.
Yes, it does.
And keep going. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, guys, this has been a killer show.
Yeah,
I mean,
it has.
it really has. This has been awesome. I love the topic, and Diane, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for thinking of it. You know, it's really cool when we have past guests get a hold of us and go, "Hey, I've got this idea,"
Yeah.
and they want to come back
thank you for having
and
me.
share, and they've got this great idea. You know, just like what you had. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, what an incredible topic.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it comes back to where it's all of us.
Yeah.
Again, right? It's just not a handful. It takes a plethora of people to, just all be a part of this
support each other.
and help and support
sure.
one another and help educate
That's
all
the
of
big
us.
key.
You know,
The
I mean,
knowledge.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I
That's
was
going to get
getting-
rid of stigma.
Yeah.
The
The stigma,
The
yeah.
stigma,
It's for
yeah.
people
Yeah.
to learn
It
how
needs-
to do it. But
Absolutely.
we got to get them willing to
Yeah.
learn.
Don't say but. That cancels it out.
Sorry.
However,
However, we have to get them to learn.
Willing to share.
Be willing to
It,
learn.
it sometimes takes a lot for others. It's not that easy for them to share.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I'm talking about the people that have the stigma.
Oh.
That's the only way we're going
I
to
see
get.
what you're saying.
Yeah, we need
is
to
that
get
we
them
talk
to be
about it.
educated. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
you know, they're the ones that Al likes to say. They look at the people that downtown that are homeless and say, "Why don't you get your shit together?"
Right.
Because they don't understand, and they
No.
choose not to be. They
That's
want
right.
to
They
be
choose.
ignorant.
They choose to stay ignorant.
Sure.
And so we
It's
need
nothing
to
like
figure
life
out
lessons,
a way
yeah.
to
Yeah.
get to them.
Yeah, that's right.
So that we can have no more ignorance and stigma. Because
Attached to it.
that's
Yeah.
the best thing that could happen
yeah.
to us.
And
Yeah.
that's what you guys are doing. So I'm.
We're
trying, yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah, we're
we are
working on
working
it.
on
yeah.
it.
Yes.
We're doing the best that we can.
Absolutely.
There's some things that has come up with Jenann, even working on finding a job and different things that I'm really starting to see how the system works a lot, and it's very, very frustrating. And Destiny Garcia, who was from Clean Slate, Utah, she was so incredible here last night on the show and shared some amazing information. And I was telling a friend of mine at the gym this morning, I'm like, so many things are turning into a pet peeve of mine, like the insurance stuff and how some of these laws are made and what's happening. It's like there needs to be a change. And I heard someone say a long, long time ago in a whole different avenue, but they're like, why is it there's so many of us that go, someone needs to do something. Someone needs to do something. And I was thinking that myself. And it's just been here recently where I'm going, well, I'm someone.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Why don't I
go
do
about
something?
this.
Yeah.
However, there are so many people that we've met who have started organizations. They didn't know how they were going to start
right.
either. And now look at Clean Slate, Utah. They've been kind of like paving the road. And Destiny shared last night that there's 8 states now that are now implementing this, which that means that it's the highways are starting to be built, right?
Yes.
The roads are starting to fork. They're just not going straight anymore. And with the help and from people like Destiny and other people who also know other people.
Right.
Right.
It's like, I don't know where this will go, but however, this is where I want to take it.
And your passion. Your passion
It's
will
the
drive
passion
you.
because something needs to change. The
Yeah.
system needs to change. And I know I'm not the only one that believes this.
That's
There is
right.
hundreds and thousands of more people all over the world
Don't believe that.
who
Yeah.
probably
Absolutely,
believe
for
this
sure.
same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at it as saying, okay, well, I'm going to be the glorified one and look at me. I'm going, wake the frick up, people. Look what's happening in our society.
What
We're
you're-
not making it better.
No,
We're
no.
making it worse.
We're harming
It's-
those that have tried to get
Right.
better.
It's time
Right.
we make a change.
There's
And
got to be some ways.
come on, man. I'm pulling a wagon with me, and who can I get to come on that is
Right.
believing this? And I'm already starting to see people running up to the wagon, going, "Hey, I know so and so. I'll get you in contact with them." And
Absolutely.
and it's like this is so cool.
the
So
connections.
it takes so many people.
It does.
That's one of the things I like the most about USARA. They have reached the
so
Washington,
many.
D.C. They have been up there, and they have helped them make new laws.
That's,
for
It takes time,
things.
like we talked
Yeah,
about.
and they work really hard trying to help people that are trying to get it in recovery
And
and
they
are in
absolutely
recovery.
should,
So,
yeah. It
they're
takes time to
very
make
good
change.
program.
But,
Yeah,
but maybe it
Absolutely.
will happen, especially if you get people behind you.
Oh, heck
And,
yeah.
Yeah, get up
Yeah,
there.
you start getting the crowd. It's like if you've ever watched that movie, and we'll get ready to wrap this up, but if you watch the movie 300, the Spartans, right? I mean, 300 of them. Look at the armies they held off. And why? It's because they all gathered together. They couldn't break through that.
Right.
You
'Cause
know,
of that
they
big support system.
Right, it's the big support system. Now,
Yeah.
if they would have been scattered around and not so tight into one another,
Yeah.
it would have been easy
sure.
to break through it and not.
yeah. The armies
and-
were like
Yeah.
10,000
Yeah.
against the 300.
300, and they held them off for how
Yeah.
many days, so
Exactly.
and again it's with anything in life, we get enough people that back us, and it's going to catch somebody's ear.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's so many great organizations that are started that way who have made huge
Absolutely.
changes in our laws that have helped so many people.
Yes.
There's lots of them out there, and I really do believe this is definitely one that needs to
be
start
addressed.
being
You do.
changed.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, ladies, oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah, thank
Diane, is
you.
there one last message you'd like to share with our listeners? Do you have anything that just comes to mind
Well,
that you'd like to shoot out there? And
To go
stare them in the
sure.
face, man. Tell them.
To go back to those 3 ways that addicts and alcoholics pass away, just hoping that more people recognize addiction and understand it a little bit better, and that we can rally behind them in the proper way to help them succeed, and that we don't have to lose people to these things.
Here, here.
So, thank you.
Is that your
Yeah,
2
thank you.
cents, baby?
Oh, yes.
Here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's not
Thank
lose
you.
any more people.
Yeah.
I'll concur. That's
I
my
concur.
big word for the
I
day.
concur.
I concur. So, again, ladies, thank you for being here.
Thank
and
you.
Diane, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming back a second
Honored.
time.
Oh,
You're
I'm honored
always
too.
you're always welcome here. I'd love to even have you come on
I'd
as
love
a
to
guest
co-host.
So,
Yeah.
we've got some openings. We'll have to
Yeah,
have to
thank you.
chat after the
Yeah,
show,
let's
because
do.
I'd love to have you come
All right.
back.
Thanks,
on
both of you.
Absolutely. And we want to say thank you to all you guys out there. Thank you to all our sponsors, all our listeners. Sometimes I get emotional talking about this, and other times I don't. It's crazy. But again, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for you guys. Resilience Talk Network, all the people that are behind the scenes that are huge supporters of ours, who want to help us. I mean, we did our live show here last night, and we literally had this studio filled with people here
really?
Neat.
going over cameras and different things, and
It's exciting.
it's because of you guys
Yeah.
that are making it possible to grow this and help us spread the word. So thank you so much. And I get emotional about it because it means so much to me. It means so much to all of us in this studio. It means so much to my wife. We need your help.
Yeah.
Let's make a
Let's do it.
change.
Let's make difference.
Let's make a frickin' change, people, and,
Yeah.
and we need you guys to continue to support us and help spread the word. So
Yes.
I will
Together we
stop
can do this.
crying. I was doing my best to hold it back, and my feelings come out. So my feelings come out. So be it.
That's right.
And again, thank you to everyone, all our many sponsors. Again, Resilience Talk Network, all our amazing guests, all our amazing guest co-hosts. And remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.